Welcome to the third episode of MotoRush Ride and Review. In today's Ride and Review, we are going to be covering something a little bit different. One of the best models in the game and the third fastest cash price bike in the naked category. In this episode, we are going to be throwing a leg over the MV Agusta Brutale 1000. Before we begin though, I want to have a quick chat one-on-one with you. Yeah, that's right, you. Did you like that little edit at the beginning of the video? Well, if you do, then you should check out my fellow MotoRush content creator, Luna. She made the edit and her channel is linked in the description, so big shout out to her and many thanks. Let's get into this review though without wasting any more time. As always, we are starting in the dealership. We're going to check out the price of the bike and have a little look at the model. So as we can see here, it's in the naked category, in-game referred to as the NV Bagusta Brutale 1000. So it's $27,095 and oh my god. Just look at that. It is a gorgeous bike. I said in my Gixxer ride and review that the Gixxer is one of my top 3 favorites, but this bike by far is my #1 favorite. But as we all know, every bike looks even better with mods. So let's go check out my personal MV Agusta, and then we'll go to the customization shop and check out any modification you can do to it. And here we are. As you can see, I've gone for a grey and gold theme. You would have also seen it in the intro edit. Shout out once again to Luna. The only real problem I could find with this model is that as you can see on the front forks, the lower end is clipping through and out of the top end. Not great, but most bikes in the game are like this, so it's forgivable. And with so much other beauty all around this model to appreciate, it truly would be a disservice to disregard this simply because of one small issue. Every single bit of this bike is beautifully detailed and has been worked over for what I can imagine was hours and hours on end, maybe even days. And the mods, honestly, just add a nice touch to this. Nothing's too obtrusive, nothing changes it too much, so let's go check it out in the customization shop. Alright, we've talked so much about mods outside, but let's see what you can actually do to this thing. So as you can see, we have primary and secondary color, then we have wheels, we have the exhausts, there's gold, black, and then the default exhaust, which is silver. We have the normal mirror options, default, removed, Rizoma Stealth, Shinyo booster bottoms, and Shinyo booster tops. Although it's odd on this bike, the Rizoma Stealth mirrors kind of flop down like a dog's ears. For plate, we have the short tail, the removable tail, and the default plate. For winglets, we have these default winglets, which I personally prefer, the V4 winglets, and the black winglets. For cases, we have the black and silver subframe, which you may not be able to see here, but it does modify this small part just behind the exhaust. And then an extra, as always, you can see we have the Ensto 360 camera for those MotoRush Instagram vloggers.
Nigga what? Nigga what? Nigga what?
That's enough about looks though. Let's get this thing to the track and start testing its performance. Here we go, at the track with the Brutale. The first thing I'd like to mention about this bike is the handling. Now, it's nothing special, similar to the Ducati Street Fighter V4S, which is cheaper and faster in the naked bike category. Or if you're a sport bike guy, then you can kind of compare it to the ZX-10R. It feels heavy and stable, but it doesn't really lean over very much, and you're not going to get super efficient cornering out of it. It's sort of just a middle of the pack bike as far as handling goes. And honestly, for the price and the fact that it's a naked bike, you shouldn't really be expecting much more than that. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the gearing of this bike. Gears 1 through 3 are geared pretty long, meaning that down low you don't get a very quick acceleration, but up top, it's geared short. So even then, you're getting to the top speed quite fast, and the top speed isn't really that high. Like I said earlier, the Ducati Street Fighter V4S is cheaper in the naked bike category, and it has better performance, so if you're looking for a track machine or a performance machine, this bike definitely isn't the go, especially in the naked category. It'll square off with your average sports bike, although the sport bikes will be cheaper for performance, and it may even be able to win you a race or two early game. But if you're trying to buy a good and efficient sports bike at this price range, you should slash half the price and just invest in a 2023 BMW S1000RR. And if you only want naked bikes, then like I said, Ducati Street Fighter V4S exists. Although this may sound disappointing, perhaps it'll do better doing slimy squid activities on the highway. So let's head over and give even Gixxer a run for his money. Here we are, going to be heading onto the highway, and as per usual, The first test I'll be doing once we're on the highway is the wheelie test. The gearing of this bike is long, so usually that helps you sustain longer wheelies, but it can be harder to get up. So let's see, from first gear, comes up very, very easily. Into second, still coming up very, very easily. Third, drops down. Now, this is an issue with longer gears, is that when switching gears during a wheelie, it'll tend to bring the front wheel down since the long gearing creates such a gap between the revs of the first and the second gear. Even bringing it up to fourth just then, you can see it drops. And fourth gear seems to be the cutoff for being able to get a decent and reliable wheelie each time. This bike would be good for setting things like wheelie records, as the first gear is incredibly long, will overtake other cars at its maximum speed, and is stable to wheelie, with the bike, as I mentioned in the track segment, having a heavy and stable handling. The long gearing down low and the short gearing up top is going to create a low top speed. So let's test just how low that is now. As you can see here, we are topping out at 326 kilometers an hour. Obviously, this isn't super fast, but like I said, if you're looking for a performance package, this bike is definitely not the choice. It really is just middle of the pack, similar to cheap-end sport bikes that are usually half the price. But for a naked bike, this is the third fastest in the game, so you can't really be too mad at it. Well, with that being said, and everything seeming to be overviewed, let's head into what my final thoughts are. To keep my final thoughts short and simple, this bike is entirely looks and not much else. If you want a well-performing naked, then the Ducati Street Fighter V4S provides a much better package. If you want a show bike though, with a decent performance package, then this is definitely where it's at. Although it isn't very powerful, it is still a relatively fun motorcycle to ride in game and offers something different from the usual leader bike supersports. I recommend this to people who have money to spare and already have a bike such as the M1K or YZR M1. If you don't have one of these, then I'd recommend just saving the money you'd spend on this and putting it towards a decent grinding bike. That aside though, the bike is beautiful, and I do recommend it to people who are trying to collect bikes or just want something new and unique. The final score I'm going to be putting on this bike is a 4 out of 10. For the price of $27,000, this simply isn't worth it as a performance package. The only thing holding it up is its looks. That is the only reason it's getting something higher than a 2. It does kind of make me sad to give it a score this low, but the thing is, looks don't save the fact that this bike is honestly a ridiculous underperformer. It'll still remain one of my top 3 favorite bikes in game, as I simply cannot get over the looks and I personally enjoy the gearing and handling. But looking at it from an objective perspective, this bike is not where it's at. Save your money, buy something else. And that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you Luna for doing the intro edit, and until next time, stay safe and enjoy.